Heather Lemoine has been with North Dakota Department of Commerce for 14 years as the Marketing and Research Manager of the Tourism Division. So all the Josh Duhamel ads, she gets to be there for that. So everybody get jealous. She's originally from Wahpeton, a graduate of Concordia College, and has 25 years of experience in marketing, communication, and public relations. She's a data geek at heart, which is why the Census has been a fascinating initiative for her, and we have loved working for her, and she's been, I can't even tell you how valuable. She's tried to keep us on track because we're not marketing people.
Well, you're going to hear a lot of similarities in the whole idea of national campaign trickling down, and that's really how the state campaign works too. But I don't know about the rest of you, but I keep looking at this chair thinking this would be the perfect place for like the Census ventriloquist dummy, but I'm not that good of a marketer. So keep looking at that. Well, as Lieutenant Governor Sanford noted, North Dakota has much to gain with a complete count of our population, and it's really why, for the first time, the state has made a significant financial investment in the marketing campaign and in a complete count effort for the state. So the goals of the North Dakota effort are really to support the governor's goal of being the state with the highest self-response rate. It's to collaborate on promotion with the federal effort, but also with local efforts. To facilitate and participate in public outreach, and also to do marketing and communications towards the diverse and traditionally undercounted audiences. And so you've heard some of that information regarding the U.S. Census Bureau's effort, but how do we identify those for the state? And really, those audiences were identified through the census, the U.S. Census Bureau's federal data, but also the boots on the ground experts, many of whom are in this room, who are just keenly aware of the gaps between what was counted and what is the reality that you see in your communities or with those user groups. So for North Dakota, those targeted identified groups include that mobile workforce. Now, it's throughout the state, but it's especially concentrated in Western North Dakota. Our American Indian population, college students, and federal military who aren't part of group quarters. They're a priority market for us to build awareness with. And then we have as kind of a secondary tier, new immigrants to North Dakota, the frontier counties, and snowbirds, most of whom we're hoping are back in the state on April 1. And then our lower priority in terms of our financial effort and the promotional efforts would include those seniors, the homeless, and families with children under 5. In November, the State Complete Count Task Force began working in partnership with an agency of record, Super Studio, which is a Fargo-based agency. And their initiative is really in 3 areas. 1 is in creative campaign development. 2 is in media buying, and also in public relations and communications. So what I'm going to show you is in its infancy still. And this, not necessarily infancy, it is a teenager, but this campaign will really be launching very shortly. It's just that the images are still in its proof form. And you're going to see a media mix representing and targeting the traditionally undercounted population groups that have been identified as our priority focus areas in the state. The advertising messages are aimed to educate, perhaps ease potential concerns or miscommunications, misthoughts about the census, and then hit on some motivating key messages. We also have been working through that kind of timeline or workflow or phases. And really, this effort began in 2018. So there was education and prep work. Kevin was already, beating his drum, telling everyone how essential this effort was and that we needed to get our ducks in a row. He continued that messaging throughout early 2019, and the preparations really came to fruition with identifying the state task force and then funding that began on July 1. So the state also initiated an RFP for an agency of record, and we were able to do that onboarding process in October and November. So the campaign development really began then in November, in December, and what we will see is an awareness effort. So the ads that we previewed will really begin in full impact this month. And it will transition from awareness into a motivating key message, so take your census now, beginning in March through April. And then we'll follow up after this campaign runs, really, it will wrap in June. We'll spend some time just kind of putting together a really good follow-up document and resources for the state for the effort 10 years from now. So a really broad overview, and I had to look quick because our media spend falls very closely in line with what the federal government is doing, the federal effort is doing. Our number one spend is in digital, and number two is in television. And the television is still such a huge awareness piece that you're going to see TV hitting off early, and it has kind of cast that really broad net. And then as we get into that sort of targeted action phase, I'm guessing all of us in this room aren't going to have those ads following us around on Google and Facebook, because in this room, we're the ones who are going to take our census. So the mission with the programmatic advertising, the targeting, is really to identify those that are the hard to count and aim the advertising at them. It is easier now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago because of programmatic. And everything, our digital footprint is pretty large. And so we're becoming easier to target and to focus advertising on. The state's tactics are going to be varied given the audience. So we're not addressing the college students in the same way we are the snowbirds, or even eastern North Dakota to western North Dakota. But we are utilizing social media, display ads, streaming radio, connected TV, and then you will see print out of home, including both billboards and posters. And those posters will have targeted messages if it's to new immigrants or to faith-based. And then television and, of course, radio. The state's total investment is $1 million. Half of that investment is being directed into building awareness through advertising and promotion. And then, just like you saw, how can you help? Well, it's wonderful to see, how you're already doing that by just, taking the information and applying that. And of course, you can follow and share the North Dakota Census effort, just staying connected, maximizing the opportunities to personalize and promote the messages. I know that all of you here are already working two jobs. You already are wearing many hats, and this is just one more hat that you've added on. And the demands on our time are plentiful because, we're juggling so many priorities. So I applaud the fact that you've made this one additional priority that you're doing for the state of North Dakota. I hope that you won't feel that you have to recreate the wheel. Because just as Nick mentioned, there are federal resources that you're able to apply and use, and there are also state resources. Kevin and Gabby are your key contact people for finding access to all of the newsletters and the posts and the handouts and the flyers and the resources. We will have a toolkit of resources online for North Dakota, the North Dakota Census website. That will include access to the marketing materials. So the ad pieces, all of those, I hope that you will take and apply. And I want to share with you a best practice, because it is just an example that I've seen and I love, and I hope that you will just arm everyone in your community to take the resources and to tune it towards their audience. So I have 2 kids in school, and I've gotten an email from Bismarck Public Schools. I've seen Bismarck Public Schools post about this. on their social media channels. And they've taken the message and they've made it apply beautifully to where I am at in my life with children who I know depend on some of those, federal resources for their education. And I think all you need to do is plant the seed and perhaps show some of those examples in your community and really let them roll with it. I know we're running behind, but I plan to be here all day. So if you have additional questions too as we go throughout the day about the state's efforts, feel free to grab me or any of us. Thank you.